we've got 5 teams that are still undefeated right now, which is pretty impressive, actually. You got Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia Tech, and BYU. Now, let's pull out BYU for a second and talk about them. They're 8-0. They're old school football still to some degree. They've got a quarterback, John, that actually is a dual threat, which I think is the way the college football is starting to move a little bit more and more in that direction. You look at Georgia Tech, same thing, a few others out there where they can run the ball pretty well. So I like what they've got at BYU. The fact that they were able to beat in the Holy War and beat up on Utah. I watched Utah the other day. They're pretty freaking fantastic football team, John. They really are. They've got big, huge guys, Islanders and everywhere. I mean, just impressive. They got a fullback that I think weighs 310 pounds that they use in there a lot. So that's pretty interesting as well. The quarterback's got 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So they don't give up the ball very easily. Oh, by the way, he's run for 9 other touchdowns as well. So pretty impressive. Just trying to figure out this whole thing with BYU and how they do it. But here's the thing. They have a game this week that's very meaningful, and that's why I don't understand how this team didn't get in there. They're going to play Texas Tech this weekend. I think Texas Tech beats them. And the reason I say that, John, is they have one of the top 5 offenses in all of football. We all know Texas Tech, always offense, right? They throw the ball, they do this there. They're number 5 in defense as well. Top 5, I should say, in defense as well. So when you've got the best offense in football, call it top 5, and top 5 defense, I don't know. I know that they stumbled. They had a stumble against Arizona State, but Arizona State, let's be honest, they got a good quarterback. They got a good football team. They're a team that I think a lot of people were talking a lot about first half of the year. So I look at this game as, you know what, Texas Tech maybe knocks out BYU. And if that's the case, I think Texas Tech is going to be one of those teams that's somewhere in that board that didn't even get discussed, John. What do you think about that? And were you surprised that they decided to say, hey, Brian, you're really not cutting it down here at LSU, and this is a year where we're cutting everybody before the end of the year. We're not waiting till the end of the year in November. You're losing jobs. I think it's the 11th or 12th major program that has got their coach fired already this year. And unfortunately for LSU, they just can't seem to do it even with all the talent that they've got.
Yeah, and we both know why, though, Pete, because when you have this many openings coming available for a coach, somebody's going to start picking up those guys that have been cut. And I don't know if he had the same contract, Pete, as Franklin, where he has to pursue a job. Kelly, that is, has to pursue a job, or if he can just say, nah, I'll just take the 54 mil and maybe I'll find a job at UCLA. Maybe I won't. I don't know that UCLA would pay him what he'd want, Pete, especially since Neuheisel's been doing pretty well. I know they got throttled by Indiana, but that UCLA football team is not great, not right now. They're good, but they're not great. But Neuheisel might be the guy to make them great if he gets a recruiting class and he does the Lane Kiffin kind of thing, because he's a young guy and people like that. Players like playing for a guy like him, obviously. But yeah, I think Texas Tech, I watched them, Pete, and they are good.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't know how you leave them off the board.
Yeah. They're just, if you're top 5 on both offense and defense, I think right away, if I was on the committee, I'd be like, how are we looking by these guys? They got one loss, and it was the Arizona State, who is not a bad football team. It's not like they were some schmuck or whatever. They're a pretty damn good football team in the conference as well and all the rest of it. So, you know what? It's always a funny thing, but we're a long ways away from the playoffs still. How about this? We're halfway through the NFL season, right? So we are in week 8, and we're going to be watching, everybody's going to be watching Monday Night Football and all the rest of it. But here's the thing, John. Right now, who do you think is probably both the most interesting as well as deserving in terms of, like, let's say a top 3 teams right now in the NFL? I'll start off, and we could go back and forth. Indianapolis Colts, Daniel Jones. What can you say about the guy? All he does is throw touchdowns. And you know what? He's nobody's fool. You show me a quarterback who's willing to throw to the tight end, Tyler Warren from Penn State, who was willing to throw to the tight end. You're going to show me a quarterback who actually understands the game, because every good quarterback has a great tight end. and it makes them even better. But they all want to throw to the deep guys, right? Because that's the exciting part of the game is, let's throw the deep ball. You know what? When you throw to the tight end, you've done things right. So I think the Colts, 7-1, by the way, are not only at the top, but they are maybe even above the top, because with that running back, Jonathan Taylor, and you've got Daniel Jones, and you got a pretty damn good defense, I'd say the Colts look pretty good.
Yeah, Indiana Jones has, turned his career around by getting out there with the Colts. And so more power to him. I love watching the kid play. Mm-hmm. He's great, Jonathan Taylor. That is so complimentary, as you and I know. Don't need to belabor it, but if you can run the ball, then you can really hurt people with the pass, because the first step that those linebackers take is to fill, not to back up, because, Taylor can freaking zip through there, and they're all trying to get him before he gets through the line of scrimmage. And that means, like you said, that the tight end's going to be wide open because they're stepping forward instead of coming back. So, yeah, I like it.
And it's why, John, Philly's gone to a Super Bowl or two or whatever. Philadelphia figured out how to run the football. And once you can figure out how to run the football and you don't have an egomaniac of a coach who doesn't want to do that, just wants to throw, you got a good shot at being a really good football team. How about the Patriots, John, with Drake May? Now, everybody kind of looked past Drake May. He's this kid out there, North Carolina kid, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Some of his numbers are actually higher than Tom Brady's at this point in time, John. So, think about that for a second. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. He's physically built a little bit like him, I will say that. 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far this year, John. 75% completion kind of a guy. He also runs the football pretty good, like some of these other quarterbacks in the NFL now. And he throws to a guy who's also a tight end, Hunter Henry. He is a guy who's figured it out, just like Brady did. You know what? Throw it to Gronk, and then everybody else gets open, right? So throw into the tight end once again. What do you think of the Patriots? Because they're playing pretty damn good football at 6-2.
I love them. I think they're great. Defensively, offensively, I think both sides are doing really well. I will say, Pete, that the most exciting thing I saw this weekend is a game nobody cared about. And that is that against Drake May, your buddy and mine, Myles Garrett, freaking had 5 sacks. 5 sacks, a franchise record. And they still lost. No one has ever lost. And they lost big, too, because they can't score. They have very questionable QB play and offensive coordinators and all the rest. I don't know what they thought they did in the offseason, Pete, but they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why they had to go get, the quarterback from Cincinnati, because, they just didn't. Shedeur never worked out. None of the other guys were either healthy or worked out. It was just sad. Mm-hmm. But I thought he was exceptional. That game, that's a highlight reel game. 5 sacks.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's amazing to have that good of a defense, and yet the offense just can't do a damn thing. They just can't. And those guys have had four quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks. And yet, for whatever reason, John, at some point, don't you think you do throw Shedeur in there? Do you just say, hey, let's just see what you got? Supposedly he's hurt a little bit or whatever, dinged up, I don't know, but I don't know how.
How do you get dinged up in practice when they can't even touch him?
I'm with you on that. Lastly, I'll just say the Buccaneers, because I could say the Broncos, but I'm going to say the Buccaneers, John, because Baker Mayfield, you could hate him, but you kind of got to love him, even if you hate him, because he's changed his entire life around. He's got a great football team that he's a big part of and becoming a bigger part every day. People have fallen in love with the guy that they used to hate, right? And meanwhile, he's got 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's got a couple of running backs that all you got to do is decide, do we give this one to Bucky Irving or do you go to Rashad White, or what do we want to do? And then he's got receivers out the wazoo that he can throw to, especially the big kid from Ohio State. So I just look at this and just say, wow, the Buccaneers look like they're back. And you know what? Broncos ain't so bad either. They don't seem to mind that quarterback now that they drafted. They're doing pretty well, John, and they smoked somebody yesterday. I was watching a little bits and pieces of that game, but man, I had to stick mostly with the Buccaneers just because just watching them, they have an unbelievable year so far.
Bo Nix with the Broncos, I agree. When you mentioned him, he is living up to what you thought he would be when he came out of Oregon. And, you know, a lot of people just went for other names, and he looks like one of the best players out of that class, quite frankly.